Principles of Syndicalism by Tom Brown. Originally published in 1943 in War Commentary as a series of articles. Principles of Syndicalism 2. Economic Federalism. In the first article in this series, published in the previous issue of War Commentary, we outlined the syndicalist organization. First, the Assembly of Workers and their job committee at their place of employment, factory, ship, mine, shop, office, etc. Next, the federation of factory or job committees into each one industry into a district industrial federation, as the Scottish Miners' Federation, the Yorkshire Textile Federation, the Midlands Railmen's Federation, and so on for each industry and each economic district. From these come the national federation of each industry, road, transport, engineering, distribution, building, etc. Then all national industrial unions or syndicates are federated to the National Federation of Labour, covering the whole economy of the country. In the other direction, each factory meeting and committee is affiliated to the local council of syndicates, somewhat like the familiar councils of action, though much more thorough. In our first article, we applied the syndicalist principle of organisation to the present stage of the class struggle alone. But the same principle is applied during the Revolution, when the class struggle bursts its normal bonds of social restraint, and the two classes confront one another over the barricades. The factory, pit, and other job organisations take possession of the places of work and operate them for the working class, and cut off the supplies and services of the employing class. The millers supply the flour to the bakers distribute the bread to the people. The power station workers send electric current to the factories while receiving coal from the revolutionary miners. The farm workers' syndicate collects food and sends it to the towns. Municipal workers' syndicates maintains the essential services of town life, and communications are re-established by the postal workers. Rail, road, and water transport workers carry goods and services among the many industries and localities. At the same time, the grip of the syndicates upon the social economy prevents the employing class obtaining the essentials of existence. No food, no water, no gas, no servant for their homes. The more time they spend cooking or carrying buckets of water, the less time they have for blacklegging or shooting workers. No trains, no petrol for their cars, no ammunition from the factories, no telephone, no newspaper to print their obscene lies. Other tasks are carried out by the various organs of the syndicates. Chief of these is the extension and defence of the revolution. The raising and arming of the workers' militia is chiefly the work of the factory committees, and the organisation of workers' patrols to guard against hooligans and counter-revolutionists is that of the local council of syndicates. Without goods and services to be bought, the checkbooks of the capitalists become useless. They can no longer hire the services of thugs and blacklegs. With the triumph of the revolution, the functions of the syndicates change and develop, but the constructional principle remains the same. The purpose of the committees and federations is now solely that of the running of the social economy, the industries and services. What men consume no longer depends on how much money each possesses, or on the oscillations of the market, but upon what men need and the capacity of industry to meet those needs. The National Federation of Labour will meet quarterly, monthly, or at whatever intervals are found necessary, to consider the economic programme. Guided by the trends in taste, the rise and fall of particular demands, and information supplied by the Distributive Workers' Syndicate, they will form the programme of each group of utilities. If 200 million yards of wool textiles are likely to be needed for the coming year, then that task will be handed to the Textile Workers' Syndicate, who will divide the task among their districts. In turn, each district will allot the share of the district task to each mill, according to the number of workers and the machine capacity of the undertaking. To the Clothing Workers' Syndicate will be given the work of producing so many suits, coats, etc. To the Miners' Syndicate, the responsibilities to raise so much coal. The Iron and Steel Syndicate, so much finished metal. The Woodworkers' Syndicate, so many articles of furniture. Through the same channels will be expressed the needs of the syndicates as well as the needs of individuals. The Iron and Steel Syndicate requires ore, limestone, and coke. The construction syndicate needs timber, bricks, and cement. The Economic Council of Labour makes possible complete economic planning instead of the present chaos. It is not syndicalism which means chaos. It is the present capitalist system which has brought society to the greatest chaos, economic and political, ever known. The considerations of the National Economic Council will not, of course, be limited to one particular country. While each country and region will develop its own resources, as against the ways of international finance capital, there will remain many utilities which can better be made or grown in certain areas. It will be the work of the Economic Council to import such things, say oranges to Britain, and to export others, say textile goods or machinery. Let us correct a misconception which may be creeping into the minds of some readers. Syndicalism is not nationalistic. The international character of syndicalism has found expression in the International Working Men's Association, but historical conditions force us to fight within national boundaries, and we do not determine the character of the class struggle. Nevertheless, syndicalism seeks the complete abolition of national frontiers. Indeed, this must be the outcome of technological development if allowed to continue. The political organization of society, that is, the government of men by men according to territory, must give way to social organization based on the administration of things, men regulating machines and utilities in a world economy. The greatest tragedy of Europe is that complete economic districts are torn apart by frontiers which have no basis in science or nature. In the mid-Rhineland, the iron ore is on the French side of the frontier, and most of the coal, coke ovens, and power is on the German side, yet one is essential to the other. Throughout Europe, frontiers cut through railways, rivers, canal systems, and electric transmission to the impoverishment of the continent and the fruition of war. Left to normal social development, rivers unite men in communities. London stretches along both banks of the Thames, Glasgow along the Clyde. The same is true of the Tyne, the Humber, and the Mersey. But when men make frontiers, they so often use rivers, not to unite, but to divide men. Rivers like Rhine and the Danube, along whose banks great communities have grown, have been used as frontiers. Workers have been cut off from their employment, and merchants from their trade. Families have been divided and towns ruined by the capricious boundary makers who call their crimes a peace conference. The conflict of technics and politics threatens to make life impossible. Once one might say that Europe was one and stop at that. Now one must say the world is one. Technics enable us to travel across the continent in a few hours, or encircle the earth in a few days, or send a message around its girdle in a few minutes. But politics works the opposite way. Even in peacetime, it took many days to travel across Europe, even with the most expensive mode of transport, because of the obstacles placed in one's path by political organization. Just before the last war, even with countries having a thorough passport system, a few obstacles stood in the traveller's path. But just before the present war, the barriers have grown enormously. To stricter passports were added visas, the customs were increased, and an entirely new kind of money customs invented. As technology progressed, politics retrogressed. The final stage of the conflict of technics and politics comes when the latter, dividing men unto death, utilizes the former for the construction of tanks, guns, and planes, to the destruction of the social economy. It is the aim of syndicalism to sweep away all frontiers, to untie humanity in a world federation of producers and end poverty, oppression, exploitation, and war.